Hi, Rachel. Thanks so much for joining me today on the Spirit, Mind, and Soul podcast. I can't wait to hear about your work. We're very similar in lots of ways in the work that we do and in our goals as well. When we spoke before, I know we had a lovely little connection, but we're really going to delve deep, which I think is going to be a really beautiful conversation. Touching on, obviously, your son who passed away, we'll be talking about grief. It's a really important subject that I haven't really spoken about on this podcast, and I know so many people can relate, maybe even relating to your story, Rachel. But obviously, talking about the hard times in your life, but also what you've gained from it, and the spiritual awakenings that you've had, the work you're doing now to help other people. So, before we go into the work you're doing and where you are now in life, can we go back and tell us what life was like for you before? Tell us all about your son Rocco and that journey that you had and that soul connection with Rocco. I'll let you take
Yeah.
over from there.
Okay. So Rocco would be 23 now. So he passed away when he was 5. And back then it does seem like a long time ago because I've grown so much and I'm not the same person as I was then. So
Yeah.
I was working in a job that I loved, by the way. I worked in a travel agency and I loved it. I'd climbed the ladder to the top and I'd really enjoyed it. My mum and dad raised my child because I had a mortgage to pay. And back in those days, it would have meant it was my own mortgage. So when he was about 5 months old, I went back to work and they raised him. I would go to work, come home, pick him up from my mum's, and that was it. I was a working mother, bum, 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 bum. And when I wasn't at work, I had Rocco. So I'm grateful to my parents. They did all the hard graft, I guess, while I worked to pay the mortgage. And then he just got poorly. He got very, very poorly. Nobody knew what it was. And it was a really, really tough time. I was constantly back and forth. I just knew. It was an inner knowing. And it's crazy because the doctor sent me a card saying, do you know what? Mother's instinct. And I did. I knew. And nobody knew what it was because it was an illness that no other child had ever had. It was an illness that it was called something like IPT. And it's an adult blood disease. And he had that, and then that triggered off leukemia and so forth. So he was just terribly poorly, and nobody knew what to do. And everybody did the best they could with the knowledge they had, but we had lots of different consultants, and everybody wanted the best for their department. And it was just, yeah, it was just a really, really tough time. But he was a beautiful little boy. He runs circles around me, and he was my firstborn. Um, yeah,
Hmm.
just
How old was he,
was
Rachel?
5. But it was just full of fun, cheeky, trouble. All of my children resemble him now. All of them. It's crazy that I've had so many children that are the same. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. And so, what do you? I can't even imagine, obviously, being a mum. I just don't even want to take my mind there and the pain
I
that you
know.
must feel, the grief, which obviously I know we want to talk about grief because I don't feel, it's probably something that we experience, if all of us, in some shape or form. So, do you want to take us down, what do you, the aftermath, or even, before, he leaves? How do you cope with that? What's going on for you?
When I look back, I did. I was reading, so I was touching things like the law of attraction, and this is back then. So I wasn't allowing any negative things to come in, and I was dead positive. And if anyone rang, I'd say, "Yeah, everything's fine," because that was my mindset. I had to stay in this mindset, and I just kept going. Really, I wasn't thinking about things. I was just thinking about. I was looking after him. I was crayoning with him. I was colouring with him. I was reading with him. I was watching films with him, and it was just as normal. I weren't crying. Slept at the side of his bed in Alder Hay Hospital, which is a big hospital where we live. And that's where I spent. We was diagnosed in September, and then on the 21st of December, that's how short the period was. And I stayed with him that whole time. I looked after him day in, day out. I didn't let anybody do anything. And I must have just been on autopilot. I was there. Nobody touched him. I did everything that needed to be done. Not, I think it's because it was my child. That's what a mother does. She looks after a child. So if anyone said, I'll change bed, I was like, no, it's okay, I'll do that. And I was always in this, maybe it was a coping mechanism to get me through what I was going through. And obviously I was saying to him, come on, together forever, and all the things that I was doing to keep his motivation going. But looking back, and I'm going off track here, but the doctor said you must tell him that he's got this illness, and I wish I never did, because doing the work that I do now, what impact did that have on his mind? He didn't need to know that he was poorly.
Yeah.
But hindsight's a good thing. I don't think he should have needed to know. Told him that he was poorly, and I read in the book that I was told and advised to do. But looking back, how our mind works, if someone's telling you you've got a serious illness, what is that doing to his mind? Thinking, holy macaroni, and everything that was going on for him, the needles, the injections, the intensive care, the tube down his throat. I just think he thought, whoa, I'm not doing this anymore. His little body was too dead enough. And, I just don't think it was a good thing to do. But hindsight is a great thing. And I didn't know what I know now. And then once, obviously, when it happened, I just don't think that was the right
Okay.
thing to do. I don't think he needed to know that at age 5. I think he should have just been kept in the mindset, we're here, we're going home. But we never did get to go home. We never got to go home. There was one day we was going to go home on Halloween, and that was his favourite time. And we just couldn't come home. Something happened, so we got all the decorations and we decorated all the room in Halloween. And then I continued that. We call it his garden. So I'd do all things at his garden, Christmas, Halloween, and I'd put everyone you say, oh my God, there'd be a big twig with a witch hanging and pumpkins, and we carried that on for him. So he just never came to come home. It was horrific. And oh my goodness, when I think back now, the pain, I'd wake up for nanoseconds and you'd forget just for that tiny fraction, and then it'd just hit you like a bolt that here we go again. And I just wanted to get through the day. I didn't want to live. I just wanted to get through the day. I wanted to just sleep. So I'd wake up as late as I could, and then I'd read and I'd read and I'd read, and I just didn't want to go back to work, didn't want to see anybody. I just became a recluse. I left my job, and I just read in the garden. Just read. I was like I'd been to Barbados. I was black. I was just sat in the garden reading book after book after book after book about parents that had lost their children. And it kind of,
Yeah.
the people's stories
Was
sorry.
I was going to say, do you think, was that an escape? Was that a way to escape reality, do you think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was lost in these books. But also,
Yeah.
it was books about parents that had lost their children in worse case scenarios than me. So it allowed me to look at, okay, it was horrific. Of course it was horrific, but people were worse than me. My baby was in my arms. He was in my arms. Others didn't have that opportunity. Others are probably haunted with other things that would, if they weren't with the child at that very last minute. So it's like I found a little bit of positive out of the worst case scenario that could ever happen, if you like. That sounds horrible saying that, but there was worse people off than I was, you know. But I also went through the time of why me. I remember
Yeah.
there was a lady who had twins down the road, and I'd think horrific things. Why she got two? Why have I got one? All of those horrible thoughts. So it was just yeah, and it isn't easy at all. And people will know that, it's just not. I didn't want to be here anymore. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Were your other kids around at this
no,
point? Because I know you went on to have more, so they
no.
weren't as
So I wasn't a
older.
mum either. And people would ask me questions, how many children have you got? And I'd be like, no. And I'd have to go and I'd sob, and I had to come up with a thing to say to get through those moments. So I've rehearsed and I'd say, I have one, but he's not here. And I still say this now. I've got 4 children, 3 earthlings, but I have an angel that I lost. And I had to rehearse saying that because I felt I was doing him a misjustice by not saying he was here, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So what are the next steps? Obviously, you're coping with that grief. What do you know, how do you even think of a future without your child? How do you move on? How do you even, what was that journey like from that point on? How do you see the positives in life, or that there can be any sort of future for you without your child?
I remember thinking, I remember even saying, I will, if he doesn't survive, I will not carry on. I will not carry on. And I remember breaking down on the steps and saying that. But I don't know, we have such clever ways our bodies are and our minds are of working through things. It's honestly, it is just mind blowing how our coping mechanisms kick in. And honestly, I look at sometimes and I just think, I have to pinch myself and think, how on earth have I got here today? I just don't, obviously I know because I can backtrack on the steps, but I would never have thought I could be who I am today. And when I look back at how it began, I remember looking in the mirror and affirmations, not that I knew that they were affirmations, but I remember saying today's a good day in the mirror, and inside I was crying. But
Hmm.
I kept saying that, and I still say that today. I wake up and say today's a good day. Everybody knows me as Rachel, today's a good day. But that's how it began. And by, I suppose I busied myself, which isn't something that is recommended. I didn't go within, which I've done a lot of that work on my journey now. I didn't go within in the early days, but maybe it wasn't time for me to go within them early days. Maybe I wasn't strong enough to go within during them early days. I do believe we do things for reasons, and I just lost myself in books. And I'd read a
Yeah.
book a day sometimes, a thick book a day. But where was I? My mind wasn't
Mm.
thinking about what I'd lost. I was in somebody else's life. And obviously, the work that I
Yeah.
do, I teach people to go within. But looking back, I didn't do that. And is it because I wasn't ready to do that then? I had to strengthen myself maybe before I went in. I don't know. But quite possibly that was
Yeah.
the reason.
Were you, would you have considered yourself as like a spiritual person beforehand or during that time? Because I
Not
know
really.
you are now, and I know the work you do
Yeah,
now is very much
not
around it.
really. I didn't know an awful lot about things. I started to read around Buddhism a lot, and I liked the concept of Buddhism, and it wasn't a religion, and it was take what you want and leave what you don't. So I read a lot around that. I remember thinking, I don't like God anymore. And I remember
Hmm.
I wasn't really religious beforehand, but I had friends that went to church. So I liked the concept, and obviously my child was christened, and before he went, I had somebody come over and do whatever they do to send them on the good passage. So I just thought, there's no God, absolutely not. Nobody would put me through this. So anything that I had like that was just gone. I didn't believe in it anymore. But obviously, I've now found faith again, and I realise that
Yeah,
things happen
yeah.
sometimes because they have to.
So, what like how did life change? What was the work you were doing before? Because the work you're doing now is obviously very different from what you were doing before. So, can you tell us about that, and how do you feel that the experience that you shared with your son and everything you both went through and that loss, did that go on to shape the career, I guess, that you went on to do?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
things change, there's a before and after, and things change completely. I am changed completely for the better, far, far for the better. However, would I go back and be that same person and have my son? 100% I would, but we don't have that choice. So I went on a healing journey, and I went to university for 7 years. I got a BA honours in politics, social policy, which was crazy. Then I did a postgrad in education, so I went into teaching. Then I went into that wasn't for me. I was finding who was I? Who was I? Where was I going? What is my purpose? I started to dig deep. What am I here to do? What is my dharma?
Mm-hmm.
And I just began, I think I did life coaching, and then I started to do healing, emotion coding, and I started to do a lot. I'd been through a journey myself, and along that way, I'd learned different healing things that people had done to me, counselling, NLP, all sorts of things that I touched upon, and I began to train in them myself, and I couldn't get enough of it. I was obsessed. How the mind works, um, how our brains are wired and how we can store emotions in our body and how they need to be released. And if we don't release them, then they're going to get stored as disease in our body. And I went down the spiritual route where I learned Reiki and healing, and I looked at spirituality and why we're here and what my purpose is, and soul contracts, and I just love it. I don't stop reading. I still read now, probably 3 hours every single night. I read. I can't wait to get into bed. I love it. I'm like, yes, fucking bedtime. I just love it.
Yeah.
You know, it's changed my
Yeah.
whole entire life reading around spirituality and things.
And I know that you do, it's soul alignment coaching. Can we talk about that? And when you and I spoke the first time, you said that, I don't know if you want to go into this, if you feel that it's something that you do want to touch on, the soul connection that you had with your son Rocco,
Yeah,
and him coming here to give you the life lessons, and that it was like a soul contract. I know many people will have heard of this, and do you want to talk about that? Or I find that,
yeah,
I actually think that would be such a comfort in a time like that as well. So can you talk about that and what you feel Rocco was here to teach you, and what led you into the soul alignment coaching that you do?
of course. When I remember, it was my sister sent me it was a bookmark and she'd handmade it and it was so beautiful. And it was all in special paper with a love heart and a ribbon. And it said, energy cannot be destroyed, cannot be created, and cannot be destroyed. And I couldn't get my head around it. And I remember thinking, oh, and it took me ages to understand what it meant. And I was like, wow. So Rocco must be out there somewhere. His energy still lives on. It's there. So that was the
Mhm.
first part of that. Then when I stepped deeper into spirituality, and it was probably very deeper, I came apart across the soul contract. And this is my truth. And, you know, I believe that we come back time and time again. And I
Mhm.
can see people who have been here before just by talking to them, whether they've been here before or maybe this is the first journey to the earth plane. And each time we're coming back, we're learning the lessons that we need to learn each time. And I have learned a bloody awful lot this time. I tell you, I have learned so much. And I'm hoping that I don't come back again. I don't want to come back again. But I've got a feeling I'm going to come back
Yeah.
one more time. I've got a feeling there's one more time for me. And I
Mhm.
think we learn these lessons. And when we're up, wherever we're up, we have the lessons to learn. And my lesson must have been something around maybe compassion, grief. Maybe it was stepping into the spirituality that I'm in. But I had to learn something. And Rocco said, come on, I'll come with you. I will be your son. You will be the mother, and you will experience the grief and the loss. And you will learn love from a difficult place. And you will go on to share your love with others and create whatever you create from that. And I believe that I had to do that. That is the life lesson I had to come to experience. And I might be absolutely bonkers. And I say this to my mum, but if it makes me feel good, does that matter? And that is my truth. My truth is that
Mhm.
that is my contract. And he's there and he's with me all of the time because he's energy that cannot be destroyed. And we had this
Mhm.
pact that we will come down and do this together. And that gives me peace. That is probably why I'm where I am today. And that has got me onto the work that I'm doing. Because if I can do this, everybody's got the opportunity to do this. We don't have to sit and
Yeah.
be sad. And the
Yeah.
people, they wouldn't want that for us either.
No, it's a powerful perspective. It's something that, so I very much am on the same page as you when it comes to beliefs and soul contracts, and coming here to, like you said, we're here more than once. We choose to come here. We get to have a human experience, whatever that may be. We're here to feel all the feelings as well. And I actually, I'm of the mindset that there's no such thing as a bad emotion. It's
Yeah,
just our body's way of communicating with us and saying something needs to be addressed. And I actually think, I know grief isn't, it's, and there are many emotions that are not good to feel. There's, we wouldn't wish to feel these emotions on a daily basis. Sometimes they become our default and we do feel them daily, and we shouldn't be feeling any emotion daily. But I do think that we can reframe grief and see it in a different perspective. That it's maybe telling us that we loved and cared about something so much that we're grieving it, rather than feeling stuck in it. It's the feeling stuck in it that when it becomes negative and like something that we try and suppress and we don't want to feel. But I think we can, it kind of shows us what's important to us and that something's no longer is, and we're grieving that and we're allowed to feel that. And I think there can be so much, like you've experienced so much growth on the other side of that if you sit in it.
Of course, and that's what it is. It is reframing it, and it's like you said with the emotions. It's the labels that we put on them, good or bad. You know, you
Mm.
can sit in it and go through that. Why me? And it's just a consistent feedback loop, and your brain will start looking for all of those things that will say, yeah, why you, and this is why it's you, and blah 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 blah, and you just stuck in that rut of no movement. You have to break away from it in places where you can, and as best you can, and reach out. I did reach out. I love reaching out. I reach out all of the time. If I'm stuck, I reach out, and I'm not ashamed to do that. I don't mean stuck as in me. If I'm struggling with my children, I just ring the health visitor. I'm struggling, they're not doing something, what can I do? She gives me a tip, I put it into place, off we go. And this is what I did with the grief. I sought help
Yeah.
because that was my way of getting through it. I went to somebody who was knowledgeable and who could say, Rachel, and I had a really good counsellor actually. And I do think there's a place for talk therapy. I really do. I really do. I don't think it gets to the root cause of things. I think you have to go a little bit deeper than that. But just in them early days, just that lady talking to me who'd lost a husband, and yeah, it wasn't a child. I wish it was somebody that had lost a child because I would have related more. But I realised that her husband was as much to her as my child to me because she hadn't lost her child. Her grief was as big as mine because that was her biggest grief. So we were parallel. Whereas at the time I couldn't, I'd be like, well, it's not the same, Mom. I'd go home. It's not, it was the same because she didn't ever feel the loss of a child. So that to her was massive, but she was great. She was absolutely brilliant. And I was sad when she left. So, 100%, reaching out is a good thing to do.
Yeah. So tell us about your work and the coaching that you do. So I think because of the subject that we're talking about today as well, I know you do. We've mentioned the soul alignment coaching, but there's other aspects to your coaching as well. Can you tell us about it? What women do you find you tend to? Because we have certain women that, because me, I work with women as well, and the certain people are tend to be drawn to us because of our story. What kind of women do you find that you work with, and how are you helping them? What is your style, and what is it that you're focusing on?
I tend to work with a lot of women who were probably where I was at some point, and it's not just the
Mhm.
grief, it's also everything else that I had: lack of confidence, lack of self worth, fear of failure, fear of judgment, procrastination, a whole host of things where my conditioning had made me believe certain things. I used to think I was stupid. I used to think I was
Yeah.
ugly. Um, I used to think all sorts of things. I used to be wondering what Jack down the road would be thinking if I did this, that, or the other. I would have all this incessant chatter going round and round and round in my head. And when I started to take stock and think, is this fact or is this fiction, and work on myself, things changed. And I know my self worth now. I'm not bothered what anybody thinks about me because I know I come from a good place. So I haven't got all this thought process going round anymore. My head's very clear, actually. It's very clear. I don't really think about an awful lot because I've done the work around it. So I want to help other people who maybe don't think they're good enough, don't think they're lovable, don't think they're beautiful, because we all are. And all it is a
Mm.
reprogramming of the mind, stripping back all the conditioning and all the things that people tell us along the way. You're this, you're that, you're the other, you're not beautiful, or comparing, comparisonitis, the thief of joy, all of that. I work on that, and I probably
Mhm.
do work with people that are feeling that way. They might have a successful career. I had a bloody great career,
Yeah.
but I still
Yeah.
felt that way. I was still comparing myself to other women. Wow, I would never do that now. And thank goodness, because it was a horrible place to be where I would worry if somebody was
Mm-hmm.
attractive. That's just, I don't do that anymore. I embrace, this sisterhood. That's what I'm about. I love things, rising, women rising together. And yeah, I tend to work with people who don't feel good about themselves, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you're right what you said there. You can work with people who are really successful, and it might be they're successful in their career or their relationships, or they've got great friendship groups, and there's successful, or what we would deem successful in certain areas. But it's what's in here. We can look successful on the outside, but we want it's. I feel the biggest thing is that we're unfulfilled as a collective society. We might have the nice house and the job and the career and everything's going well on the outside, but what is the point of all of that if you don't feel good on the inside? And I guess that's where the soul alignment comes in, is actually finding what fills you up, what feels good for you, or for me. And then it's starting to create the external reality to that. Would that be right in saying that's what you help women with,
100%.
is actually tapping into what feels good for them and
Yeah,
what's going to fill them up and allow them to feel fulfilled and content and joy and all the good things that we should be feeling and experiencing in this life. And then
yeah.
you get to create that on the outside.
We focus too much on the external making us happy, when really it is here. Money does not. I mean, great. It's bloody great having money. Of course, it's great having money. We all love a bit of money, but it doesn't bring happiness. You can have all the money you want in the world. If you're not happy, you're not happy. And I see that all of the time. People in great jobs. I was, in a place of, I was comfortable. I loved my job. I had great money. Was I happy? Probably not. I was, no. And I see that
Mm,
all of the time. It's coming in here. It doesn't mean we can't have nice things. I love nice things. Absolutely, I do. There's
mhm.
nothing wrong with having nice things. But when you're happy in here, it doesn't really matter. I've actually got a picture there, and I've had that probably since I lost Rocco. And it says, "When you love what you have everything you need." A picture I have somewhere up here.
Yeah.
When you love what you have everything you need. And it is. It's coming in and checking in with yourself.
Mhm.
And when it's all good here,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. But like you touched on earlier, there can be beliefs and thoughts that block that feelings of I don't deserve it, or I'm not good enough or clever enough to create that.
I can't have that. This is for everybody else but me. Absolutely not. If somebody else out there has got
Mhm.
something, each and every one of us can have it. If somebody's everything, if it's doable for one
Mhm.
person, it's doable for any person, and that is factual. So if there's anything that anybody
Yeah.
wants, the only thing that's stopping them is themselves. And it's just changing up your mindset and just vision. I love vision. I love vision. Stepping into that new reality and just going, stepping up and up and up and up, and you get there. I will have whatever I choose. Anything I choose, I know I will. I know I will, because I will align with the mindset that I want. And I have. My life is good.
Mm.
There's one person missing it, and that is Rocco. And if that wasn't missing, I swear on my life is good. Very good. Pinching me good. How have I got here
Yeah.
when that I was suicidal by this?
I think that's where reframing can come in so powerful as well. We were talking about I'm not good enough, or that they can have that, but I can't achieve that. And I think again, reframing that to, rather than, oh, they've got that, I'll never achieve that. Actually, they're showing you that it's achievable.
Yeah.
They're being an example for what is possible for us. And even reframing it in that way, even just totally shifts your physiology and how that
Mm,
feels, rather than thinking, oh, I'll never have that. That doesn't feel very good in your body. It's not very motivating,
yeah.
but rather reframing it to, she's an example that I can do that too. And
Yeah.
if that feels so much different in your body as well. So reframing and doing all the mindset shifts, and it's really powerful. It's all over, social media now, isn't it? All the motivational talk, but it really works,
It does.
that rewiring your mind.
It do even, I mean, when I sometimes feel, because we all have bad days. I don't wake up and everything's glorious. We all have bad days. It's life. We're in this human experience. But I can just think to myself, just change me frame of mind just by saying this. And like the same as how you look, if you're constantly telling yourself you're fat, you're ugly, you're this and that, that is what you are. I look in the mirror and say, holy macaroni, you look good today. And that is what I will say to myself. If I see a wrinkle on my head, I don't go, oh, the bloody wrinkle. I'll go, hell man, for 47, you look bloody good. You know, it's changing how we talk to
Yeah.
ourselves. And like me, today's a good day.
Mm-hmm.
It was never a good day back then. It wasn't about, but I don't know where that bloody affirmation come from. But I said today's a good day, and I cried. And my sister says, I'll never forget you saying that in the mirror. You know, it's something that we all remember because I get up every day and say it, just those little things. I am powerful. I am successful. I can have and be and do whatever I choose. Even if it doesn't feel right, eventually it begins to become right. It begins to feel good in here. I love
Yeah.
it. I love all that I do. I absolutely love it. And I'm grateful that I found this path. I could be on it. I could be here now in a totally different place. I could not be here. I could be up there or coming down from a final
Yeah.
time, you know. But I took that different path.
Yeah, I feel the same. I do. A lot of the gratitude that I show or, say in my mind or journal about is about, I'm so glad that I have this way of thinking. I'm so glad that I found this path because I didn't intentionally seek it. I had to hit my lowest point going back a long time ago now, but before I started to gradually, it's like, where do you go from here if you're at your lowest point? The only way is up. And I felt like I had to climb up. When you're on that intentional journey to create change in your mind and in your body, you need to be careful what you're consuming. And obviously, that's coaches can come in really, really useful with the reframing and the getting to the root of all the stuff that's holding us back, but also being careful what you're consuming, what you're watching, what you're listening to, what you're reading, because your subconscious is obviously taking all of that in, and your thoughts and your feelings are going to be a result of that as well.
And who you're around, you know, that as
Mm,
well. I cut a lot of people off over my time because it just wasn't right for me. You know, if you're surrounding yourself in an environment where it is negative, then that's how you're going to be as well. So that is important as well. 100%. You know, putting yourself with the right people. You know, happy
yeah.
people, or going like finding places, groups, stuff like that. You know,
Mhm. So, how can people come and have that conversation with you if they feel drawn to come and find out the work you do, or if they are feeling stuck or feeling like they want to, maybe they connect with your story and they do feel that you're the person for them to come and work with in some way for their own personal healing and growth? What's the best way to do that, Rachel? How can people contact you?
I am on Facebook. I have a little group, a little collective group that I go in every day and post something of positivity, whether it be a story. This morning, for example, I shared a story about NLP. I do NLP as well. So I was triggered last night, terribly triggered, terribly triggered. I was fuming. I was driving, I was sad, and then I thought, hey, get the NLP hat out. So I got the NLP hat. So I shared this in my journey, in my group today. And by thinking it wasn't about me what happened last night, this person was probably embarrassed and probably did what they did for a reason of their choice. I was looking at it from my reality. But when I actually stopped and looked at it from their reality and put my NLP hat on, I could reframe. Again, we're going back to reframing, but I reframed the whole situation and my night panned out totally differently. So I have a little group called the Soul Alignment Collective where people can just pop in, and I put little things in there, and I need to become more, I'm active every day in there. I put something in there of some shape or form. Um, but I do all sorts of things. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. I've just joined TikTok because that's the place to be apparently. So I've just joined there. But I have lots of things. I have group programs. I do one-to-ones. I do all
Yeah.
sorts of things. So come and find me wherever you wish. I can always give you my my information if you want that, and if anybody wanted to come in. And if somebody is going through grief, I do have a book that I wrote, about 3 years ago, and it was just a little chapter in a book. It's not little. It was, funny enough, it was 5,555 words, which is an angel number. Crazy, because my limit was 5,000. And I said, you can't take this off me, 5555. And it's my journey, just in a chapter of a book. It is my journey from losing Rocco and how I got through it. So little steps, where I was, and how I got to where I am today, just to give people hope. And in the book is other stories from other people who've done similar. And I've also got another book coming out in May where I've helped other people. So because I had such a profound healing journey writing this book, I thought I'm going to offer it to other people. So I do another one, and that is coming out in May. I hope that was okay to mention. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention it because if somebody is struggling with something, the new book has got ADHD in it, narcissistic behaviour, grief, loss, 9/11. Somebody was in the 9/11, OCD, anxiety, and all these ladies have done the same. They've thought, you know what, something's got to give. I can't continue like this, and the whole life is just kind of alchemized, and now they're somewhere totally different. And this gives people hope. It's for everybody. Everybody. We all have a share in this, all of us. And if we can help each other along the way, we rise together.
Yeah, amazing. So yeah, I do encourage people to come and follow you because obviously there'll be updates on when the book is out as well in May. And what about for you, Rachael? Is there anything, you're obviously you've done a lot of healing and a lot of growth and you're helping other people now in their journeys. Is there something that you're hoping for that's just for you in the future now?
For me, you mean my dream?
Yeah.
What is my dream? Oh yeah, I have a dream. I have a dream. My dream, I'd like a retreat in Antigua with 50 rooms, and I am the hostess. Have you ever seen, what's her name? Nicole Kidman in the retreat. I am Nicole Kidman in the retreat, and you all come, and you can come, Karen, when I have this place. And there's 50 little rooms, and everybody comes, and we all stay for a week, and we just emerge into inner wellness. That is my dream. That is my
Yeah.
dream. My end result is that, and happiness and hope for my children and things like that. Because I love my children. They are my everything. My children. That they all do well.
Yeah.
They have me on board, so hopefully they'll be okay.
It'll happen. Yeah. Amazing. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your own personal story because there will be people that can resonate. And I think sometimes we need to break down the barriers and talk openly about these things. And other people, sometimes we just want to be seen, don't we? We just want someone to know that we're not alone in what we're going through, and that it's okay to talk about these subjects as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course, because that is it. And I think sometimes by sharing stories, we give other people permission to share their stories, and furthermore,
Mhm.
people resonate and they go, wow, yeah, that's me. If you've done that, I'm coming too. And they start to go. It's like a movement. It is available for all. It truly, truly is. And if somebody is feeling stuck in any way, shape, or form, just reaching out is that very first step. And that's all it needs to be. You don't need to even consider this bigger picture. Just one little step, another little step, another, and there you go, grow, grow, grow. And before you know it, boom, you're this big oak tree that has just gone from, what am I going to do, to something else. We've
Yeah.
all got it in us. We just have to dig deep and go for it.
Well, thanks so much. I know this is your first podcast, so it was a pleasure to be the first podcast where you come on and you share your story so openly and talk about your personal journey and your lovely little boy, Rocco. I'm glad that you were able to come on and talk about him, and we got to hear about his short life, but the big impact that he had on your life. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Honestly, I've truly enjoyed it, and thank you. And can I just say that you make me feel so welcome, and that's probably why I felt so comfortable. You're a great host. You're a great host. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. You were the most amazing guest. Thank you so much, Rachael. I wish you all the best in everything you go on and do.
Thank you very much. Mwah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.